You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. Snow in the forecast. Who in the country is expecting an early white Christmas, and what this all means for travelers as they make their way to their holiday destinations?
What they offered at the table was just not nearly enough.
The Starbucks worker strike expands, where locations are now shut down during what's supposed to be a busy holiday sales bump, and why the coffeehouse giant calls the demands of strikers unsustainable. Then, with cold flu sick season well underway, why an expert says you should lean more on what's in your fridge to remain healthy as you head into the new year. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Right now, over 26 million people under winter weather alerts from coast to coast. A storm system in the Midwest bringing snow to parts of Michigan through tomorrow morning. And this will move east overnight with snow forecast in the Northeast and northern mid-Atlantic and freezing rain possible in the mid-Atlantic and central Appalachians through tomorrow evening. Heavy rain and higher elevation snow are likely in the Northwest and parts of California through tomorrow, moving to the Central Rockies by Wednesday. Tonight, a North Carolina police officer is dead following a shooting inside a Greensboro supermarket. The officer, Michael Horan, was responding to reports of an armed individual at a local Food Lion when that gunman opened fire. The suspect is in custody. We're still working to understand what led up to this shooting, but we will be following all the developments out of this story. So stay with us here. We will have coverage for you both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. The attorney for CEO shooting suspect Luigi Mangione is accusing New York officials of denying her client his constitutional presumption of innocence.
I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other
Karen Friedman Agnafilo says last week's perp walk under heavily armed guard with New York City's mayor joining the pack was choreographed and unnecessary, adding that officials stated that Mangione killed United Healthcare's CEO before he's had his day in court. Mangione is fighting state and federal murder charges. He pleaded not guilty at his state arraignment this morning and remains jailed in New York. A Starbucks strike expanding by the day. Tonight, workers in 3 additional major cities have walked off the job today in Boston, Dallas, and Portland, bringing the total number of cities impacted to 12 and more than 50 stores nationwide. Members in Missouri, New Jersey, and New York kicked off their strike yesterday. Colorado, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, they joined on Saturday. That follows Friday's walkout in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Seattle. Workers are asking the company to resolve unfair labor practices and to offer a better economic package.
The bills we got to pay, like all of us are constantly scrounging for hours, like having to figure out how to pick up shifts or even go to other stores or other locations just at a moment's notice and be on call just to make our money. And so we want fair wages so we can actually live and have a successful life.
The Workers United Union said strikes will continue until Christmas Eve at the very least, during what is considered some of the busiest days of the year for the coffee chain. Striking members are calling for a 77% raise over the length of a 3-year contract, which Starbucks says is not sustainable. Meantime, the Amazon worker strike continues into its 5th day, and the Teamster Union says workers are now off the job at 8 facilities across 4 different states. Their intention is to negotiate for better wages and working conditions, and they've pointed to Amazon's profits, which have soared in recent years. House investigators have released their report into former Congressman Matt Gaetz, finding that he paid thousands of dollars for sex or drugs at least 20 times, including with a minor, in violation of both Florida and federal law. Gaetz unsuccessfully attempted to stop the report's release by pointing to the fact that he's no longer in Congress, something many lawmakers disagreed with.
There's a very small number of cases where members who are under allegations this serious resigned in effort to get through of them. We've identified, we've gone through and looked through, we found 4 in the past 4 decades of history. In every one of those cases, and now in 5 of those cases, The Ethics Committee has completed their report, and in 4 of those 5 now they have released that information. That is the precedent.
Gates has long maintained no wrongdoing, and federal investigators declined to charge him over what he is accused of doing. And over the weekend, he hinted his political career may not be over.
My fellow Floridians have asked me to eye the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Maybe special counsel to go after the insider trading for my former colleagues in Congress. It seems I may not have had enough support in the United States Senate. Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate and join some of those folks.
Tonight, the Guatemalan illegal migrant suspected of lighting a New York subway rider on fire this weekend has officially been charged with murder. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us now with what we know about the man who allegedly carried out the gruesome slaying.
A nightmare unfolding right before Christmas.
One of the most depraved crimes one person could possibly commit against another human being.
A woman riding the New York subway Sunday morning set on fire at the Coney Island stop. The suspect sitting back calmly, watching her burn to death. We've blurred the images due to the graphic content.
The suspect used what we believe to be a lighter to ignite the victim's clothing, which became fully engulfed in a matter of seconds.
Detailed videos from the scene helping NYPD swiftly make an arrest, apprehending 33-year-old Guatemalan migrant Sebastian Zapata. New York Governor Kathy Hochul coming under fire from critics for social media posts made in the hours after the brutal murder, claiming she has made the subway safer for millions of riders.
Subway crime is down 10%.
Zapata came to the U.S. illegally in 2018, the Trump administration deporting him days later. Fox News reporting ICE officials say Zapata entered the U.S. illegally again at an unknown date. This murder bringing the crisis at the southern border back to the forefront of issues facing New York City.
That has to stop. That is so upsetting just a few days before Christmas for that to happen in our city. But it was allowed to happen because our city refuses to cooperate with ICE to deport individuals. And so we need President Trump and Tom Homan desperately to come in and clean up our city and secure our border.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams met with Trump to discuss plans to remove undocumented migrants from the city when Trump returns to the White House. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Federal officials are investigating an apparent malfunction at a holiday drone show in Orlando. Several drones crashed into each other and fell to the ground on Saturday, causing the city to cancel the show. One person was hospitalized with a severe injury. Orlando police detectives saying they would help the Federal Aviation Administration gather any evidence. And tonight, President Joe Biden is taking 37 out of 40 people off federal death row. Today, with just 4 weeks left in office, Biden announced he was commuting their sentences to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The move comes after Pope Francis called on world leaders to end the death penalty, with some lawmakers also encouraging the move.
But I think there are reasons, both in terms of racial justice, due process, and what it says domestically into the world about our values if we were to go ahead and execute all of these individuals rather than have them spend the rest of life in prison.
Only 3 federal prisoners will be awaiting execution when President-elect Donald Trump takes office. They include one of the brothers responsible for the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, the white supremacist responsible for a mass shooting at a historically black church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015, and the mass shooter responsible for killing 11 worshipers at a Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen remains in intensive care, but doctors say he is expected to recover. Governor Pillen broke several ribs, has a partially collapsed lung, and suffered injuries to his spleen, kidneys, and lower back after being bucked by a horse on his property yesterday. State staff says he has been working throughout the day from the hospital room. And coming up, the pre-Christmas travel rush isn't quite over. How bad traffic could be tonight if you are making your way out the door. Then lawmakers say a 17,000-page report provides mounds of evidence of a censorship campaign by the Biden White House. We'll break down the findings. And later, the most important step you can take to avoid falling for gift card scams that cost Americans hundreds of millions of dollars. We'll be right back. We are most likely past the worst of the pre-Christmas traffic, but we're not in the clear quite yet. According to INRIX, drivers were supposed to have the worst traffic delays this past weekend, but travel times could still be up to 30% longer across the United States. And if you're driving to a big city like Boston, New York City, Washington, D.C., or Seattle, you could be dealing with double the normal delays. INRIX says Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are both expected to have minimal traffic. Now, for those driving on Wednesday, you'll probably see the lowest Christmas Day gas prices we've seen since 2020 during COVID. Gas Buddy predicts an average of $3.01 per gallon, down from $3.10 last Christmas. And flying is going pretty smoothly so far today, with 40 cancellations of U.S. flights so far and around 2,800 delays. That's a lot lower than where we were on Friday, which was one of the busiest travel days. Over 500 U.S. flights were canceled and almost 11,000 were delayed. And tonight, Amtrak says it's reached a historic milestone. The rail service just broke its ridership record, carrying nearly 33 million passengers on the rail system in the year 2024. That's a 15% jump from the previous fiscal year, and it marks a very critical moment for the once struggling platform that took a huge hit when the pandemic was at its height. Amtrak says investing $4.5 billion into major infrastructure projects has helped improve the overall customer experience. Its new goal is to double ridership to 66 million passengers by the year 2040. Consumer confidence in America is dropping this December. That's according to an analysis by the Conference Board. Analysts were predicting a slight rise in the confidence index, but it fell a few points instead from the November outlook. The Consumer Confidence Index measures both Americans' assessment of current economic conditions and their outlook for the next 6 months. Despite the drop, expectations of a recession over the next 12 months remain steady at this time. Spending this holiday season is expected to fall just below $1 trillion. That's according to the National Retail Federation and Prosper Insights and Analytics. We could see between $980 and $990 billion in sales between November and December, which would beat last year's record by as much as 3.5%. The Federation says individuals are budgeting more than $900 on average for gifts and decorations, as well as holiday meals. And a live look for you over Washington, D.C., where House Republicans have dropped a massive report following their investigation into the Biden White House and big tech companies. They say they have concrete evidence the Biden administration coerced and even threatened social media companies to restrict or remove online content they didn't like, especially as it related to coronavirus vaccines and President Biden's son, Hunter. Here's Christine Frizzell with a breakdown of what's in that final report.
House Republicans putting in writing what they've asserted all along, that the Biden White House used its position and its power to launch a campaign of censorship, coercing companies like Facebook, which is owned by Meta, and Twitter, as it was then called, Google and Amazon, to remove or restrict content posted online.
It was the White House on January 23rd, 2021, saying take down the tweet. And the tweet, there was nothing false in the tweet. And guess who the tweet was from? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The third day of this administration, they're trying to censor their Democrat primary opponent.
We sat down with House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan last year to talk about his early findings, revealed in emails and from Twitter once the company, now called X, was purchased by Elon Musk.
We learned Twitter, Facebook, Google, and other companies developed a formal system for taking in moderation requests from every corner of government, from the FBI, the DHS, the HHS, DOD, the Global Engagement Center at State, even the CIA.
Following multiple hearings, the committee just published its final report, 17,000 pages, concluding big tech companies changed their content moderation policies because of White House pressure. That the campaign targeted true information, satire, and other content that did not violate the platform's policies. Democrats have called the claims unfounded, accusing Republicans of trying to distract from how Donald Trump will weaponize the federal government when he takes office.
He has promised, Trump's words, to stock the federal government, including the Department of Justice and FBI, with appointees loyal to him and only him, not to the Constitution.
Democrats are already raising concerns any future weaponization of the federal government will not be investigated, since Republicans control both the House and the Senate once Donald Trump takes office. Republicans signaling they may continue investigating the Biden White House, writing in the report, quote, "This work is not complete." I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Okay, Christine, thank you. We are following some developing news just coming into our newsroom. Former President Bill Clinton was admitted to the hospital just moments ago. Developing a fever is what we're told has happened. According to Clinton's deputy chief of staff, the 78-year-old is undergoing testing and observation at Georgetown University Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Angel Urena tells CNN the former president is, quote, fine. He says Clinton remains in good spirits and, quote, deeply appreciates the excellent care he is receiving. The former president is hopeful to be home by Christmas. A former U.S. Marine Corps pilot will be extradited from Australia to America over allegations he illegally trained Chinese military pilots. Boston native Daniel Duggan served in the Marines for 12 years before then immigrating to Australia, where he ultimately gave up his U.S. citizenship. He's been in a maximum security prison since his arrest in 2022. Now, Duggan denies the allegations, and his wife gave us this statement. She said, "We feel abandoned by the Australian government and disappointed that they completely failed in protecting an Australian family. If convicted, he could face up to 60 years in prison." Honda and Nissan, they are planning to merge and form the third largest automaker by sales in the world. Today, the two Japanese companies announced that they signed a non-binding agreement to integrate businesses. They're expected to finish negotiating by next June. There was no mention of price, and formal talks are just beginning. Mitsubishi Motors, a Nissan Alliance member, will also join in on those discussions. And the Container Store is filing for bankruptcy in the face of losses and falling sales. Sales have dropped around 23% in the last couple of years. The CEO said the company is here to stay and expects the bankruptcy process to take less than 35 days. Its 102 U.S. stores and website will remain open. Nearly twice as many retailers have filed for bankruptcy this year than last year, according to CoreSite. With so many viruses circulating this season, including the flu, RSV, and COVID-19, it's really important to take extra precautions to protect yourself. While health experts agree that vaccination is a key method for defense, medical reporter Barbara Morse highlights that there are also natural ways to strengthen your immunity.
It's not cold and flu season anymore. It's cold, flu, COVID-19, and RSV season.
It's also a time when many people decide to go on a diet, says nutrition expert Dr. Michael Garko. That's okay if it's a lifestyle change and not a crash diet, because remember, you need nutrients to both lose weight and keep your immune system healthy.
You need to eat a diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables, that's plant-based. You need to really exercise and keep your immune system vital by moving. You need to get good sleep and rest, because that's when your immune system reconstitutes itself.
Let's break that down for you. Plant-based fruits and vegetables, nuts, beans, whole grains are rich in fiber.
Fiber is I'm going to tell you a big secret. Fiber is the secret to losing weight. It's a secret to managing your cholesterol. It's a secret to managing your immune system.
Yet, many of us reach for ultra-processed foods like candy, soda, bacon, fries, hot dogs.
You can't build a house with junk elements. You can't build good health with junk food either. And then stress. The biggest cliche of all time, stress is a killer. But you know what? It's a fact. It will age you faster, and it will promote chronic disease. So if people can learn how to manage stress.
Dr. Garko suggests meditation or yoga. A few other immune boosters: hydration, drink plenty of water, eat smaller meals and eat them slowly, and get moving. I'm medical reporter Barbara Morse.
All really good tips, Barbara. Thank you. Coming up, the incredible story of a man discovering long-lost siblings after being adopted 75 years ago. We have reporters all across the country covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in New York with an unlikely reunion.
Dixon Hamshaw has celebrated plenty of holidays, but he tells me this Christmas is one he'll never forget. He was born in Buffalo, adopted, and grew up in Elmira as an only child. In mid-August, Dixon ordered his pre-adoption certificate, not knowing he had a whole family he was about to discover.
It wasn't difficult. My biggest hesitancy was I didn't want to intrude on people. I didn't know whether they would be happy that I was around or not. And Thanks to Gary over there, he was the first one I called.
I was eating my lunch in my car at a job site, and I got a phone call, and I didn't recognize the number. And I hardly ever answer the phone if I don't recognize the number. But for some reason, I answered it. And he says, "Hi, my name's Dixon. Are you Gary Romig?" I said, "I am." And he goes, "I'm your brother." And I'm like, "What?"
Both men kind of in shock. Dixon sent Gary a photo of himself. Gary shared it with his 5 other siblings, and they immediately recognized their father's face.
Balloons released into the air in memory of Savannah Soto, Matthew Guerra, and baby Fabian.
It's just a family thing that we have here. The way she always wanted family.
This is Savannah's grandmother, Rachel. She says although her death happened a year ago, the heartbreak remains present. Savannah's opportunity to have a young family was taken away by the alleged murderer, Christopher Preciado. Preciado claims Guerra and Savannah went to his house so Preciado could buy marijuana from Guerra. Then he says a gunfight broke out and the couple was killed.
Last year, $217 million were lost due to gift card scams alone. Someone takes the information off a gift card or puts their own barcode or PIN numbers on there, then reseals the gift card, puts it back. You go in, buy that gift card, put money on it for a loved one, and they steal it right away. So you're walking out of the store with potentially a useless gift card with $0 on it. So how do you protect yourself? Well, first, use reputable big box stores to buy your gift cards or well-known convenience stores. And you can go a step further. If you want a Starbucks gift card, go to Starbucks and get that gift card.
Major League Baseball's only member of the 50 home run, 50 stolen base club is joining other elite company across all sports. Shohei Ohtani, fresh off his first World Series championship, is now a 3-time AP Male Athlete of the Year winner, alongside greats like Michael Jordan, who's the second best of all time, Tiger Woods, LeBron James, and Lance Armstrong. They have all won 4 of these awards, but the all-time record belongs to golfer Babe Didrikson with 6 AP titles for the female athlete of the year. Thank you so much for joining us. Safe travels to many of you out there.